Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our Diverse Teams Equals More Money event hosted by lovely Taylor. Thank you very much for having us today.
Thank you very much, Moby, and thank you for everybody who is here. Before we really dive into it, I would like to first address the concept of perspective. We're going to be touching on that a lot today. And so therefore, to really understand the context of this presentation, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself. So yes, my name is Taylor Anderson. I am a Berlinerin, so I count Berlin as my home, but I am from the US. I've been in Berlin for 10 years. Before coming to Speedinvest, I was actually a history and English teacher. And interestingly enough, I applied for my job at Speedinvest as a white man. And that's how I joined the company. I was in no way a diversity hire, which I think brings an interesting flavor to my perspective on these issues. But also there were some reasons for that. At the time, I was in the middle of a career change, and I was looking to start a new internship. And I checked out the Speedinvest website, as I think sometimes many of us do, who come from underrepresented communities. And when we're applying for a job, we say, okay, is this going to be a company that is welcoming and safe for me? And when I looked at the website, I didn't see any huge red flags beyond some of the normal things that you might find in the tech or VC space. I also didn't necessarily see anything that really spoke to me and said, you know what, this is going to be a safe space for you. So admittedly, me joining Speedinvest as a white man and then coming out after was kind of a choice, but this is the kind of thing that does happen. Now, that said, after I spent some time here, I really met a lot of wonderful people. And I realized that, okay, Speedinvest is a place where I can be safe. I eventually realized it's okay, I want to build this new career as my authentic self. So I spoke to my immediate supervisor, and then it went one level higher. And eventually I spoke with the head of the company. And even though we were still at that time missing a lot of pieces of our diversity and inclusion, or as we call it, equal opportunity and inclusion journey, at the end of that discussion, I had a really good feeling, in no small part because the head of our company said to me, okay, well, if you have any problems, come talk to me. So what that really did for me was it helped me be able to say, okay, well, maybe I'll be fired from this job, but it's not going to be because I'm a trans woman. If I get fired for this job, it's going to be because I do a bad job. I'd like to think that I have done a good job here, but that really is what allowed me to push my career forward and contribute in an inclusive way to the company. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from when I'm talking about this topic. So that said, now we will have the opportunity to have more questions and answers at the end of this talk. But for now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of it all. So for many of you, I'm guessing the reason why you are either here or you clicked on this video is because the thing that got your attention was more money. Now, I can tell you, I do have my own personal motivations for pushing this idea, for pushing diversity, but in the end, we do run businesses. We are building startups, we are investors, and we're not doing these things always like really out of the kindness of our hearts. And even if we want to have a social impact, in the end, a business needs to make money. So this is what the data says. Diverse teams equals more money. If you have a gender diverse team, like executive team, founding team, leadership team, the company you build is going to be 25% more likely to be in the top quartile of profitability. Will it be 25% more profitable? Can we guarantee that it will be more profitable than a comparatively not as diverse company? No. Over time, will it be more profitable? Yes. You'll be more likely to have those companies. And if you compare that to ethnically diverse teams, which I think very often, especially in Europe, gets kind of forgotten about. Very often when we say diversity and diverse, what we really end up talking about is gender equality. And I think we really need to work on moving beyond that, but that's a time for another conversation. So ethnically diverse teams get in the top quartile of profitability an additional 36% of the time. But what does that actually mean? These are just numbers. So this is what it comes down to. These are the 4 quartiles of profitability. You want to increase your chances to build a company that is startup D. And if you're an investor, which one of these companies do you want to invest in? We talk about all the time, I know because my work with in content, I edit a lot of blog articles that come across the Speedinvest desk. And we're always talking about the teams. The teams make the difference. Complementary skills. Well, this is something that investors more and more are going to be starting to look at. Is a team just generally diverse? So we just looked at the numbers and we're looking at this graph and it seems very, very straightforward. And I've been in a number of meetings where we say, yes, 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 but we already know the numbers. We all already know these things. So why am I even having to have this talk? Why are we here? Why are you here? Why sometimes when we mention the word diverse, do we still get this kind of honestly cringy feeling? We get uncomfortable. Even if we believe in it, there's a certain, I don't know, uncomfortable je ne sais quoi about the word. And I think it's because we're conflating 2 meanings of the word diverse. Specifically these 2. Kind of colloquially, when we speak, when we say, okay, maybe when we say the phrase diversity hire, what that kind of gets to be code for is a non-dominant hire. Is this a hire who is a woman or a Black, Indigenous person of color, LGBTQIA+, a person with disabilities? Does this person have that characteristic? Well, obviously that gets uncomfortable because then comes the implication that that characteristic in and of itself somehow makes a person better for their job. And I think we need to kind of move away from that. And instead of hiring for non-dominant characteristics, we want to hire to build a non-homogeneous team. So like I was just saying, it's like I've had these discussions where we say, hey, would you like us to put you in contact with some hiring platforms where you might be able to get a more diverse pool of hires? And what we very often hear back is, no, we just want the best person for the job. And so that is that particular definition of diverse. But I think what we always need to now start repeating is to our founders, to if you're an investor, to the people you're investing in, It's like, okay, what kind of team are you going to build? So now let's cross over to teams. Teams build businesses. So you could have a business that is an AI facial recognition software. Maybe it is a neobank for small to medium enterprises. Maybe it's femtech, like a menstrual health app. Maybe it is an AI waste sorting app, or maybe it is an advanced renewable and sustainable energy grid marketplace, or maybe it is a software developer tool. We can look at all of these things and think, well, these are all very different products. And maybe some people are thinking, yeah, diversity doesn't really apply to my product. All of these things here, in the end, all companies, all businesses, whether you're an investor or a founder, you all have the same product. And that is decision-making. We are all selling our ability to make decisions. If you are a founder, you are speaking to investors and convincing them that you know how to hire the best team to build your product, and that you know how to hire the best team to build your team and develop your team and to develop an expansion and growth strategy. If you're an investor, or like a VC, you are convincing your investors that you are going to get them a return on their money, and you are going to make good decisions of what to do with their money. So now let's connect the two. First off, let's just say, okay, teams make better decisions. You can put the diversity for the moment to the side. Even if you have a non-diverse team, that's correct, you're going to make better decisions statistically than an individual. So we can start on the left there. You can take a look if you have generally a non-homogeneous team, and I'm going to pull out the card. The fact that I was a white male for 37, well, wasn't a white male, that's a difficult language, but presented myself as a white male for 37 years of my life. I can say to you, let's be real, usually it starts with all white male teams. You're going to make better decisions than an individual. If you throw in gender diversity and gender equality, it gets better, and so on and so forth, where you get to the point where you say age, gender, geographic diversity, you can throw in ethnic diversity, you can throw in educational diversity. Point being, the more variables that you have that are mixed and the more non-homogeneous your team is, you're going to be able to make better decisions that make more revenue for your business. Now, another side of that is once you have those diverse perspectives and that diversity resource within your company, if you are able to successfully call upon those diverse perspectives, then you are going to make decisions more quickly and with half the amount of meetings. Now, I know for many of you, you're probably reacting and saying, but Taylor, like, I just really want to spend more time in meetings. And you're asking me, but Taylor, like, can you tell me a way that I can integrate diversity so that we have to talk about it more and spend more time? I'm sorry, if you be inclusive, then you're going to be spending less time in meetings and more on other things. And I can't help you with that. Now, I will just tell you, obviously, that was a lot of sarcasm there. I just got back from the United States, so there's an extra layer there. But yes, we all want less meetings. So I just wanted to loop it back to this. Again, which company do you want to build? Which company do you want to invest in? Again, it is, I'm guessing for most of you, it's a startup D there. but what is this really, this phenomenon? I'm going to try and make it, we're going to do a little fun exercise here for everybody's involvement. So here, ask yourself, okay, what do you see here? What is your perspective on this? I'm just going to take a moment and let you take a look. This is not a new thing, so, okay. I'm guessing many of you saw a duck, and then many of you saw a rabbit. Who's right, who's wrong? Everybody's right. Now, this is the difference in perspective in action. And when you have diverse teams and inclusive decision-making, for every problem that you're trying to solve, you get to take advantage of this phenomenon. Because I can guarantee you, no matter your experience, you have blind spots in judgment. I can say from my personal experience, I did as well. My perspective on life has changed significantly since I've transitioned. Pre-transition, I always considered myself to be a very woke person. But what I've come to realize is that, honestly, men and women do not live in the same world, in the same reality. They are parallel, but not the same. And it's very, very hard on a day-to-day basis to pick out those differences, but I promise you they are there. Now, I'm obviously only speaking to men and women due to my own specific circumstance. And I can also tell you that one of the places where I feel like one of my personal largest blind spots is addressing the needs of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. It is a lived experience that is very foreign to me. But that's makes it even more important for me that if I'm on a team, that it's even more important that somebody who has that lived experience is involved in decision-making. Because then I know when we're building the team that will develop our products, for example, let's take, for example, a digital health product. Obviously, there are differences between men and women there, but also Black, Indigenous, people of color have their own lived health experience. Health outcomes for that demographic in the United States are just not as good as they are for white people. So there's really no loss for embracing the disagreement and the different perspectives. And when somebody says something that doesn't necessarily make sense to you 100% of the time, maybe take a moment and say, okay, convince me. Tell me why I'm wrong. Personally, I always love it when somebody can convince me that I'm wrong, because then I am avoiding making a whole bunch of wrong decisions in the future. And I think that's the way we need to start looking at inclusive decision-making. Now, what I'm going to do now is move into, okay, what are a couple practical tips to start bringing in these people into your teams so that you can start making more inclusive decisions and therefore making more money. So one is make your job ads more appealing to underrepresented groups. Just even though we talk about, okay, gender is not the be all end all of diversity, and we need to be very cognizant of that and be very much aware of that when we're talking about it, That said, it is still a huge, huge imbalance. So run your job ads through a gender bias checker. There is an example here. This presentation will be available to you at a later date. Another thing is, obviously, we cannot do job advertisements to say, hey, we want to hire a woman, or we want to hire a gay person. No, but that's not the value. The value is not the characteristic. The value is the perspective and lived experience. Also the networks. So something that you can do is say in your job advertisements, connections to underrepresented networks is a plus. Because then you're tapping into something else. It's like with me, part of the thing that helped me get this job is the fact that I speak German. It's a plus. So expand your talent and capital networks by forming and developing partnerships. Just as an example, for Speedinvest, we have our own partnerships that we've had in the past or that are ongoing and at varying levels of commitment. One is with female founders, YSYS, for the unicorns in tech with their parent organization is Ulala, and people with disabilities, Soziale Heldinnen. Publicly signal that your company is a safe space for people of all backgrounds. When we first had conversations within Speedinvest about how to signal that Speedinvest was a safe space, one of the questions that came up was, well, are you actually saying that you looked at the website and it said that it's not a safe space? No, like I said before, I had no indications that it was not a safe space, but there were certain gaps. I'm happy to say that some of these gaps have been filled. For example, we now have a clearly stated and publicly available anti-discrimination and harassment policy. So you can check that out in the footer of our website. Also in the footer of our website, you can find a link to our equal opportunity and inclusion page, where you can find more information about our equal opportunity and inclusion, or EOI strategy overall. And you can read that and ask questions. And there is also, of course, an email address there so that if you do have specific questions after looking at it, you can get more information. Also, if you want to go a step further, there are a slew of people out there who are knowledgeable experts in this field and have the connections that you're going to want to make. Those people are DEI consultants. You can either hire them internally, or you can bring them in and just work with them for a project. DEI, by the way, stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's another one of this, another part of this kind of alphabet soup that we currently have on the topic. Eventually we'll find a unified way, but we're not quite there yet. And then of course, another one is to sign up for a DEI platform. If you were to just do a Google search and say DEI tools or DEI platform or DEI platform network, there will be things that come up that are aggregators of tools to help you on your way. So that then, for this level of discussion, I hope that there are more in the future. I'm just going to stick with those tips and tools. But that brings us to then the end of this particular conversation. And I would like to open it up to a Q&A. We will be stopping the recording. But thank you very much for being here, and I hope to be in touch.